The most rewarding and extended survival challenge ever is here, alone in the Arctic. 10 contestants must endure 100 days in the Arctic. The winner will take home $1 million prize. While summer jobs paying hundreds a day are common, those offering thousands are rare. In these tough conditions with pesky neighbors, finding food is vital. Contestants must push their limits. They'll continually push beyond their limits, seizing this rare opportunity. Let's see what we can learn from them. How will they endure 100 days in the Arctic? Maybe next time, we could win that $1 million prize. The contestants are entering the Arctic now. Let's check in on Sean first. He's thrilled to be in the Arctic, feeling like the only person for miles. He's eager to explore. His boxes are packed with camera gear. A great vlog could boost his TV time. But those claw marks? It looks like his neighbor is a bear, and Sean's smile vanishes. He can't help but think he's upset the show's producers. He swiftly relocates. It's not that bear meat isn't delicious, he just can't afford the hassle. Sean maintains a brave front, but his steps are getting faster. Sean is a survival blogger who live streams daily. He demonstrates essential wilderness survival tools to his audience. A big fan of Alone, he applies every season. He has studied the experiences of past contestants and trains daily with the Arctic environment in mind. His main concern now is finding food. Nothing else in the Arctic seems to faze him. He aims to demonstrate his survival skills on camera, to prove to his critics that he is the real deal, with no scripts involved. Though he says this, Sean secretly wishes for a script. At least then, he wouldn't have to worry about fighting a bear. He carries a bow and arrow for protection. He looks for a suitable place to build a shelter. Surviving here for 100 days means considering the neighbors' moods and making sure resources are easy to gather. After some searching, he finds a good spot. Suddenly, he spots a wild boar by a tree. He quickly aims his bow and fires. Unbelievable! Sean hasn't even set up his shelter yet, and he's already bagged a wild boar. Now he has to spend time cleaning it. This really troubles him. If it weren't for his small smile, I might have believed him. After some hard work, he successfully gets the boar meat. Soon, he can have a barbecue. I hope it doesn't attract bears. Next door, Joe isn't in a rush to build a shelter after entering the game. He carefully unfolds and refolds the top, believing the first shelter just needs to be good enough for him to lie down and rest. As a biologist, he's well versed in wilderness survival and skilled at using natural materials to construct shelters. He aims to push his boundaries in the wild, using his expertise to confidently find food. Joe doesn't care about winning the prize, he just wants to enjoy the Arctic challenge and see how many days he can last. Joe intends to explore the surroundings. He hasn't been alone outside before and suddenly feels a bit lonely. He's unsure of the other contestants' thoughts but intends to stay a month to see how it goes. Suddenly, he hears a noise. It turns out to be a squirrel puffing out its chest. Joe quickly grabs a stone to give it a shot. After 3 tries, Joe finally catches the squirrel. Starting off with food lifts his spirits. Meanwhile, Sean has a meat rack ready but needs to start a fire below. The wood is damp, making it tough. Even with a fire starter, it takes a lot of time. Without fire, surviving in the Arctic is really tough. It might take until dawn to cook. Sean took some time to set up a shelter and stew the meat. After a busy day, he can finally enjoy it. Too bad he didn't bring any seasoning. Otherwise, he could make it even tastier. The natural flavor is still good. He dumps the leftover meat juice far away to avoid attracting bears. After nightfall, Sean lies down early, but the pot's noise makes him worry about a bear. If the pot is taken, he can't cook or boil water. He grabs his bow and steps outside, but his vision is limited. He can tell there's something in the bushes, and whether it's a bear or a wolf, it's bad news. Once he sees the pot is safe, he hurries back to the shelter. Sean feels his heart is about to jump out. He can't sleep soundly at night. Any noise scares him. The next day, Jillian is busy setting traps for rabbits. 7 traps should be enough. She thinks spruce branches are edible too. She tries chewing one, and her expression shows how delicious it is. Whoever taught her that must be a genius. Suddenly, she sees something moving and quickly goes to check the traps. To make it through the night, you need a lot of resources and a strong mindset. She thinks she has a great attitude. After all, girls who smile often have good luck. She's a snow survival guide and frequently goes on remote adventures. She can handle the Arctic well but fears injury and hunger. Her husband, also a survival expert, wasn't chosen for the show. Unfortunately, he didn't make the cut. She thinks a couple's edition would be great. She missed him the moment she left. She hopes she has the strength to finish this Arctic challenge. Jillian didn't think it would be a rabbit. It was by the trap, waiting for her. The snare hadn't worked on the small rabbit, so she had to end its life herself. He regretted letting the rabbit suffer and broke down in tears. Maybe he should dismantle all the traps. Jillian held back her sadness and went back to cook. He thought this place was just too harsh. Despite his tears, he continued to eat rabbit meat. It was only the third day of the challenge. Roland went on camera to reveal his breakfast. Ants. They pack several times the protein of beef. They were surprisingly tasty. He suggested them to friends who want to eat without gaining weight. The best part is they're free and unlimited. Roland was quite happy eating them. He lives off hunting in the wild. His family never buys supermarket meat. He simply hunts in the jungle for what they need. Living off the land is just his way of life. If he wins the prize money, he's not sure how he'd spend it. His family is already very happy. Roland joined the challenge mainly to see how tough it is to live alone in the wilderness and to showcase his survival skills. He found bear tracks on the beach. They seemed to be a bit old. The best part was finding a bundle of fishing line. Roland can now try fishing. Food is crucial to completing this challenge. The water here is very deep, so there must be plenty of fish. She looked around to find the best spot, ideally a bay. Suddenly, a small wolf ran by, but luckily nothing happened. If she had a bow and arrow, she might have had wolf meat for dinner. If it had come closer, she could have tested her axe's sharpness. The shelter was nearby. We need to be extra cautious at night and set up defenses, like Sean, who sleeps clutching his horn every night with his porcupine meat nearby. He's scared of waking up to a black bear, so he doesn't sleep well at night. He tries to catch up on rest during the day. Food isn't an issue for now, so conserving energy is crucial. We've reached day 4 without any major problems. Joe even took a quick dip in the freezing water. After a quick wash, he immediately got back to shore and dressed up. The cold almost did him in. On his way back, he looked for something edible. So far, he's only found some mushrooms. No fruit, but he did see animal tracks. Joe grew anxious, realizing the tracks were fresh. Suddenly, he saw a black bear in the distance. The worst part was, it was heading for the camp, likely drawn by the squirrel guts. No matter what, he had to drive the bear away. He didn't want to be on a bear's mind constantly. He regretted not bringing a bow and arrow. Now he had to use the show's gear to scare the bear away. Joe rushed back to the shelter, relieved the bear hadn't come down. He feared the bear would wreck the shelter. Joe was constantly on edge, always wary of grizzlies. It was a dreadful feeling. Another day went by. Jillian woke up feeling tired, planning to work on the shelter over the next few days. For some reason, he felt unusually tired today. Just chopping would wore him out. He pushed through the discomfort and kept working. Adding more wood to the existing structure, there were still many gaps, so he needed to gather moss and other materials to fill them. It looked pretty good. Jillian had been working hard for 2 days straight, visibly weaker. I'm concerned he might collapse before using the shelter. Jillian, however, was quite pleased with his work. Satisfied with the warmth, he decided to gather more wood for entrance decorations. He toiled until day 8 to complete the shelter, which looked impressive, though he doubted its smoke ventilation. Jillian cooked the remaining rabbit meat, but his knees were in a lot of pain. He wanted to soak them in a bucket. He was struggling and missed home, wanting to vent to his husband, but it was too soon to quit. He believed he could. He felt he could last at least 50 days. Joe, however, was downcast, finding no joy in the wilderness. If my stomach wasn't growling, I'd just sit here until nightfall. I should check the traps. It'd be great if another squirrel came by. There's so much to do every day, but so little food to be found. Joe's body is growing increasingly tired. Having meat daily would make work much easier. I didn't find much along the way, but suddenly I saw something. Turns out the trap actually worked. A rabbit was caught in the trap, and it's a decent size. Finally, we can have a good meal tonight. Joe is at a loss for words. The trap next door also snagged a rabbit. What a fantastic day! He can't wait to eat rabbit meat. In such harsh conditions, Joe knows it's already quite an achievement. There's still a long way to go, but Joe believes they'll be fine if they maintain their current pace. It's only the 10th day. Sean is preparing to build a new shelter. Just looking at the area, you can tell it's a big project. So far, only a small part is done. He's already out of breath. If he had known, he wouldn't have built it so big. Sean keeps talking to the camera. He mentions how amazing the shelter will be when it's finished, though there's no one to see it. Recently, he hasn't heard any bears at night. Also, there haven't been any new bear tracks, so Sean's been sleeping much better. In his free time, he hunts with his bow and arrow, hoping to catch another porcupine. Unexpectedly, there's still half a boat here, if it's not broken. He can fish offshore. If not, he can use it as a shelter wall. After a quick check, he thinks he can live underneath it and fill it with water for a bath. Sean really knows how to enjoy the wilderness. Next, he repeatedly fetches water and pours it in, then lights a fire to boil it. Sean isn't merely surviving out here. He's practically at home here. He strips down and gets into the water, enjoying it as if he's in his own hot tub. No one else thought to make a hot tub right away. Now he can relax and soak in warm water. It'd be great if he had some beer. For Sean, the Arctic is a breeze. Now he can plan his purchases for when he returns. Best of all, he can take a long vacation anywhere he desires. Xiao Yan believed surviving in the wild was easy and felt confident about winning. He intended to enjoy a hot bath every few days. He planned to grill some skewers to enjoy while soaking, which made him feel relaxed. Xiao Yan stayed in the bath until the fire died out. Now he could boil some water to drink, but unexpectedly, Xiao Yan's fire starter went missing. Moments ago, he had been so happy. Now he was feeling extremely upset. How could he lose the fire starter? Without fire, there's no way to survive in the Arctic. Xiao Yan looked all over, hoping he'd just misplaced it. He was utterly frustrated. He entered the shelter and searched for a long time, but still couldn't find it. He had no clue where it was. Now he could only retrace his steps while searching. If he really lost the fire starter, Xiao Yan would have to go home and slap himself. Why did he take that hot bath? Life is full of surprises. That bath cost him dearly. Xiao Yan pulled himself together and kept searching. After hours of searching in vain, he couldn't even check the footage. No one anticipated such drama. Xiao Yan swore off hot baths forever. Some might wonder why he didn't try rubbing sticks together to start a fire. But in the Arctic, even if you rub your hands raw, you might not see a spark. Xiao Yan felt he was really unlucky. He didn't succumb to hunger or the harsh environment. Instead, he failed because he misplaced his fire starter during a hot bath, a mistake he'd never forget. With no other option, he had to call the show's crew for help. It was truly unfortunate. I had high hopes for Xiao Yan. If he had built the shelter, it would have. With Xiao Yan felt he had disappointed his family. His exit was likely the most surprising and unfortunate in Alone in the Wilderness. The production team felt let down too. Xiao Yan hopes to get another shot if there's a next time. He's got the skills to win. The smile just shifted to everyone else's faces. I wonder how the remaining contestants will perform. Let's wait and see.